One final update before Season 19 goes live. It is a thick one. Today, we are talking exotics. Bungie has made a massive wave of adjustments to more than 20 exotics, on top of making tons of changes to enhanced perks, normal perks, weapon archetypes, etc., etc. I'm mainly going to be focusing on the exotics because a lot of the other changes are very subtle and will put you to sleep. But I will mention some highlights right now, though. Shotguns are getting unique fixed spread patterns with a custom reticle based on the archetype of shotgun that you are using. Glaives got hit detection adjustments, hopefully should be more reliable. Glaive melees also now work with Syntheseps, Wormgod Caress, and Winter's Guile, although damage multipliers against champions, mini-bosses, bosses, and vehicles were nerfed about 25 to 30%. Dragonfly, Rampage, and Surrounded Spec mods are no longer going to be a thing, and instead will have their effects enabled by default, no mod needed. Kill Clip is getting nerfed, to my surprise, 33% to now 25%, but in addition to Tunnel Vision, can now be refreshed while it is active. This is really going to change up a lot of time to kill numbers in terms of kill clip being active, and my theory is that Bungie thinks that being able to refresh it more consistently may lead to chaining issues. Definitely more of a PvP change than a PvE one, and I am anticipating some people being annoyed with this change. Hake Breach Armament's origin trait now increases damage versus wards and wells by 30% or 60% with the artifact mod, and damage against stasis crystals increased by 15%. Compulsive Reloader now remains active down to half ammo, nice little buff there. Rewind rounds now work properly when hitting a divinity cage. 1-2 Punch is getting a rather notable nerf, as Bungie wasn't a huge fan of stacking all of the melee buffs in the world to one-shot raid bosses or whatever people were doing. The only slight exaggeration on that. We're going from 3x to 2x against most enemies with unpowered melees, from 1.8x to 1.4x with charged melees, and the additional bonus versus bosses is down from 0.5 to 0.25. Pretty significant stuff. Those are some of the bigger notes. Feel free to check the TWAB for yourself to see all of them, but let's get to what I really wanted to discuss, which is exotics. Exotics getting reworked are Jade Rabbit, and any weapon with the Fundamentals perk, which is that element changing perk found on Dead Messenger, Borealis, and Hardlight, is getting an elemental capacitor type buff where you get some sort of bonus based on which element you are currently on. So Arc gets 25 handling and 5 range, Solar gets 35 reload, 20 airborne effectiveness, Void gets 20 stability, and 10 aim assist. Do I think this is going to change anything for these weapons in PvE? No. Borealis is getting another buff on top of this, where breaking a matched shield refills the mag from reserves and gives your next 5 shots bonus damage, not deactivated by reloading. So you could technically chain this for all of your shots, provided you hit a matching shield before you ran out of bonus damage shots. Not a bad adjustment at all, but snipers are currently in the trash can in PvE, so we're going to need more than this to see snipers come to life again. Jade Rabbit is outdated and bad. They are changing the perk. 3 crits landed quickly returns a round to the magazine and increases the damage of your next body shot, and you can stack up to 3 of these shots, but it resets if you reload. I assume the body shot damage will be significant enough in PvP to make it so you could hit a body shot and 2 crits and still get a kill. Otherwise, I don't know what the point of this change is if it doesn't do that. Question mark. Nerfs. Let's talk nerfs. Bungie gives us a chart of exotic weapon usage in raids, and unsurprisingly, Arbalest, Divinity, Witherhoard top the charts. Divinity would be even higher if you didn't only need one of them in a group. Let's start with Witherhoard. Bungie is nerfing the duration of the pool from 7.5 to 4.5 seconds, a rather significant duration nerf. It is extremely strong in PvE, dealing high damage very quickly for a long time. They aren't touching the damage, they're not touching the ammo, but if you want to keep dealing damage while you're dealing damage, you're going to have to refresh your Witherhoard shots much more often. We spoke about Divinity at length already in a previous video, but Bungie is again reiterating here that the weaken effect, plus the crit cage, plus intrinsic overload is just too much for one gun. The weaken effect now matches other weaken effects in the game at 15%, but Bungie also reiterates that you can use stronger debuffs like Tractor Cannon and Divinity to get the best of both worlds at the same time. Arbalest missed out on the body damage reduction that Lawrence Driver got. It is now getting that reduction as well. Believe it or not, Gjallarhorn is actually getting nerfed. Did not see this one coming. They are leaning into Gjallarhorn's support power by reducing the impact and detonation damage by 25%. Wolfpack rounds are unchanged, as Gjallarhorn is the highest DPS rocket according to Bungie, and it boosts all other rockets. Forerunner got an unintended damage buff in Season 18, which made it a bit too easy to use. Body shot damage is now 37, used to be 40, and crit damage is dropping from 72, now down to 67. Now let's talk some buffs. Bungie gives us another chart of the least used exotics, along with the percentage of people who own them. Usually this is where they would start when it comes to buffs or giving out catalysts, but they wanted to adjust some guns that they felt particularly strongly about. With the full auto setting coming in Season 19, where you can make every gun full auto, it's more of an accessibility thing, Bungie is replacing full auto on every exotic that has it. No Time to Explain, Traveler's Chosen, and Vigwing. No Time is getting Feeding Frenzy. Traveler's Chosen Catalyst perk is being replaced with Surplus, it still has Osmosis. And Vigwing is getting Ensemble. No significant thoughts here. This is fine. Dead Man's Tail body shot damage is getting buffed from 46 to 54. Crit damage is down to 80. It used to be 81. It's also getting some adjustments to its aim assist logic, I guess, where it will now prefer crits over body shots while hip firing if both targets are inside of the precision aim cone. So basically, you should hopefully see some more crits. Not much to say on this one either. Maybe we see DMT again in PvP, but I'm going to let the Iron Lords of YouTube take the lead on this one. Darcy. Bungie knows that people want it to get moved to the energy slot, and that is not happening. There's already so much competition in the energy slot already. They would much rather make it worthy of the heavy slot. So now it applies Jolt when hitting targets affected by personal assistant, and its base airborne effectiveness is now 80. Bungie does not want energy snipers being abused in midair, but heavy snipers go nuts. The Jolt change interests me, as there is maybe some potential with spamming shots on a jolted target. I am still pretty skeptical though. It's not Volt Shot though. Keep that in mind. It's just Jolt, like straight up. Whisper of the Worm also got its airborne effectiveness increased to 80 at base. Again, go nuts. Wish Ender has always had a hidden damage bonus versus targets affected by Witherhoard due to its identity as a Taken Hunter's weapon. I also didn't know that. They're buffing this effect from 10 to 25% bonus damage. Wish Ender actually gets used like a little bit now thanks to intrinsic anti-barrier. Do I think this change will completely shake the meta? Probably not. Prospector has really high burst and not great anything else. They are giving it chain reaction, making it, quote, substantially more effective, end quote, at ad clear. Now, I personally don't think this is going to do as much as Bungie is anticipating, as grenade launchers are not really that hot right now, and ad clear is not something players really need a lot of help with right now, especially with the 3.0 subclasses. But I guess we'll see. Fourth Horseman recoil reduced by 50%. Fourth Horseman has some niche use, but the recoil was a bit too ridiculous. I will totally give him that. Nice change. Forerunner is a fun weapon in PvE, but it's never been a top pick. They are trying to improve that situation, increased crit damage by 30% and the rocks damage by 60%. That's the catalyst. reduced the ammo cost to activate the rock from 6 to 4, and increased damage on the outer edge of the rock's damage radius from 0 to 20%. Those are all pretty significant numbers, but I'm not gonna lie. I basically have never used this thing in PvE, and it is one of a very small handful of guns that I do not own the catalyst for. So I quite literally have zero insight into these changes. But I will say, I don't normally see Forerunner getting any PvE use anyway, so we will investigate in Season 19. Merciless is really fun when it's firing super fast, but it is hard to get and stay at that state. So, Bungie has given the decreased charge time on hit a timer of 5 seconds, which is refreshed when you land a hit. This gives it a bit more leniency. I'm totally cool with that. I would love for Merciless to get some more opportunities. Rat King is fun. The radius is too strict. They are increasing the radius from 15 to 20 meters so that you can enjoy this effect a bit more. Great. Next. Legend of Acrius had some movement penalties to make it feel weightier. Had some penalties. Those are gone now. Bastion's Season 14 nerf was a bit too much. They are dialing it back a bit. Reduced spread angle by 6%. This is the hot change that you have been waiting for Bastion. Quicksilver Storm, the Lightfall pre-order auto rifle, intentionally shipped on the weak side. They wanted to see what the uptime on the grenades would be first, and then buff them rather than launching too strong and having it be busted for a while. Now, with an item like this, you know, it's a pre-order bonus. You gotta pay a little money. I can see why it came in undertuned. It's probably to try to avoid any sort of pay-to-win arguments. I get it. They are now buffing the damage of the rockets in PvP from 80 to 120, and the explosion radius is now 4 meters. It used to be 3. Also, apparently the rockets were dealing arc damage, and that's going to interfere with an upcoming catalyst, so now they deal kinetic damage. The grenades were definitely weak in PvP, just based on how long it actually takes to follow up on that damage without switching weapons. So on paper, I'm okay with this, but my fear is that this has a chance of turning into something sinister. A small chance, but a chance. Coldheart's buff was not generous enough with the ionic traces. Cooldown on this effect is now 2 seconds, and it used to be 3.5 seconds. Coldheart now maxes stability and reload when at maximum damage, and now picking up an ionic trace reduces the time it takes to get to max damage. These are actually some really nice buffs, but I think that Coldheart and just Arc in general are at odds with each other. Like, you want to be shooting Coldheart all the time to get to that max damage, but then you also want to be spamming abilities to make use of the Ionic Trace, like, ability juice. Trying to weave these might be a bit more effort than it's worth, but I can try to explore this next season. That Sustained Fire, I think, is a turnoff for a good amount of people. Grand Overture's Loop does not feel good enough. They are buffing missile damage by 50% to compensate. Great. Xenophage buff? It technically only deals AoE damage right now, which is causing some PvE problems, so they are trying to fix those problems. Roughly half of Xeno's damage will now be dealt as impact, the rest as detonation, and they're giving it a 5% damage buff. Finally, Cloud Strike's Lightning Storm will now correctly activate when hitting Divinity's Cage. Hooray. Armor. Wormgod's Caress and Winter's Guile are getting nerfed from 7.5x to 3.5x maximum damage multiplier. I guess Bungie is tired of people doing absolutely absurd raid boss and just general boss damage when stacking all of these effects, and I can't say I really blame them. With how easy the sandbox is right now, it wouldn't surprise me if Bungie was trying to rein in the ability to do some of these massive chunks of damage with a new raid coming up soon. Falcon, we have a change coming in patch 6.3.0.1. Bungie believes these changes will, quote, address balance concerns in PvP while maintaining a clear identity in the void space, end quote. Gain volatile rounds when exiting invisibility, and when doing a finisher while invisible, now give allies a reserve overshield, yada yada yada, and gives the wearer a temporary bonus to weapon damage. I am not the most knowledgeable about volatile in PvP, so I guess we'll see what happens there, but it looks like Bungie wants to move the entire bonus damage thing to finishers versus just coming out of Invis, which makes a lot of sense given the recent PvP woes generated by this exotic. Hunters getting an easy volatile effect is also pretty nice for Void 3.0, little consolation prize PvE. Pretty interested in that given their in and out of Invis playstyle, and you can still get that bonus damage to happen in PvE. Here's what Bungie is working on for the future. Heavy weapon damage rebalancing, trying to bring some bad weapons up, maybe some good weapons down a smidge, leading to a potential meta shift in Lightfall. Large rebalance of the airborne effectiveness system, making primary weapons significantly more accurate while in the air with no investment into the stat. Tweaks to shotgun reticles, and adding subclass 3.0 verbs to exotics, of which they currently have 7 in mind. Let's round out this update with some notes about invisibility in PvP and the Season 19 artifact mods coming up. Invisibility is dummy strong in PvP right now. I don't think that's much of an argument. Bungie's first move into adjusting invisibility is by reducing the range of the radar while you're invisible. You'll no longer get access to that outer ring of information, which starts detecting when enemies are in between 24 and 64 meters away from you. So your radar is at max going to tell you 24 meters out. This means people who go invisible will need to be closer to the action to see where people are, and will allow for enemies to close the gap a bit easier. They'll be undetected. I think most people here are going to say something is better than nothing, especially when combined with Gjallarhorn, so hopefully this will put a dent in the insanity that is PvP invisibility. Finally, Season 19 artifact mods. We are going to have anti-champion mods for hand cannons, scouts, bows, pulses, autos, and SMGs, which feels pretty close to what this season is already, but Unstoppable Grenade Launcher is coming back, along with a reprisal of Breach and Clear designed to interact with Void 3.0. So start dusting off those grenade launchers, maybe. Lucent Finisher is coming back, heavy ammo going to be everywhere in GMs. Passive Guard is also coming back, and it looks like it'll work with glaives as well as swords, so a lot of old favorites coming back. Bungie is also going to be experimenting with some stuff that isn't their usual MO. Mods for chest and legs that give bonuses to resilience and mobility. A helmet mod to increase airborne effectiveness to the weapons you're currently using. Monochromatic Maestro in the class item slot, giving you bonuses for matching your elements up. And a mod aimed at solo players, which should be helpful for Legend Lost Sector farming. Whew. Okay. Overall thoughts. Well, I thought a lot of these exotic buffs were going to be much more significant than they ended up being. A lot of the adjustments kind of feel like quality of life updates more than they do actual buffs. Although a couple of weapons got some actual buffs, Forerunner, Cold Heart. But those weapons weren't that significant to begin with, and I'm skeptical of them getting any more attention in Season 19 than they do right now, even with the changes. But, again, I'll investigate. I was not expecting Witherhorde or Gjallarhorn to get nerfed at all. But it's not like the rationale behind these nerfs makes no sense. They're trying to take some outliers and bring them down. I honestly thought Witherhorde was never going to be touched. I just felt like, well, this is the way things are now. But both Witherhorde and Gjallarhorn are still going to continue to see play. Definitely Gjallarhorn at the very least. The Arbalest nerf is not going to change anything there. It's still going to get a ton of use. Part of me is glad to see Bungie not being afraid of nerfing stuff at the top end. Divinity as well. There's still a respect for the difficulty of certain activities. I was kind of losing hope there. The Worm God's 1-2 punch situation is sort of an end of an era type deal, stacking all of those buffs for just some absolutely ridiculous damage. It's the kind of stuff that allows people to solo raid bosses. That's how good it is. There's Touch of Thunder crazy damage, and then there's Worm God X5 1-2 punch type stuff that's been happening, and even Bungie has their limits. It's a fun build for sure, but I get it. And for 99% of content out there, it's still going to be more than what you need anyway. Like I mentioned, I'm sure the whole soloing raid bosses thing was maybe something Bungie wanted to monitor to keep the raid race a little cheese-free. Not that it's really a cheese, but you get what I mean. The Gerfalcon and Invis change, I would think, invokes some sort of for PvPers out there. I haven't really experienced playing against this that much since I didn't play Trials this season, but I know some people are happy about it, so that's good. With regards to airborne effectiveness, you know, after going from being able to hit fun snipe shots while in the air on occasion to not being able to do that literally at all anymore, I'm kind of on board with everyone's complaints about airborne effectiveness. They're going to be buffing primary weapons to hopefully around the point where they were before these changes came in, so that's nice, especially considering the clobbering of special ammo in the Crucible. But yeah, I gotta say, I really miss being able to occasionally hit an air snipe. Like, come on. No resilience changes says to me that Bungie is still happy with how things are right now with resilience, which is a little crazy to me, but, you know, okay. No mention of any intellect changes either. Intellect in PvE is one of the most expensive stats, but also can be more or less completely ignored in most builds. I would love to see some commentary on that. Pretty good update otherwise. Bungie not shy to making these tiny tweaks to a lot of things in the sandbox. That's always good. I'm sure we're going to have another wave of things to complain about in the next season. But until then, thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.